Hello, my name's Kayla. This is Cinnamon, Peaches, and Sage, and today I'm going to be talking about the character of Carmine from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's DLC. We're going to be looking at the various aspects of her character and going through how each one changes by the end of the first part of the DLC. This is kind of a follow-up video to last week's video about Kieran. They can be watched in any order though, so don't click away, just watch that one after this one. On to Carmine. The first thing I want to talk about with her is that when it comes to comedy, Carmine has a lot of confidence. At first, her comedic confidence makes her come off a little mean. She doesn't want the player character to enter town and insists on a battle. Kieran explains that Carmine isn't trying to be mean and that she just wants to battle, but Carmine doesn't want her brother to ruin the joke and actually yells at him. At this point, it seems like Kieran is doing this because he doesn't want the player character to see his sister as mean. For us as the player, it seems like Carmine's reaction is way overkill. Like at this point, it seems like Carmine is mean and Kieran is making excuses for his sister's behavior. But then the same thing happens with the masks before the festival. Carmine says there's only 2 masks and first come, first served, so none for the player character. Kieran lets the player character know that Carmine frantically searched for a 3rd mask. This is a little bit different from the first time when it seemed like Kieran was just making excuses. Now it seems like Kieran is making excuses for his sister's behavior for a reason. Carmine is actually nice, but instead of just honestly saying, oh, like we don't have a 3rd mask, I'm so sorry, she tries to diffuse the situation with humor. With this second example, it seems more like Kieran is just letting the player character in on his sister's joke. But there may be another reason why Kieran is doing that. All is revealed when it happens a 3rd time at the festival when the group is playing Ogre Ousted. Carmine jokes about being good at the game, and because of the previous 2 examples, we know that she doesn't mean anything bad by this, she's just trying to be funny. But Kieran's specific reaction in this part helps explain why Carmine gets so upset about Kieran basically killing her buzz. It's because Kieran isn't just killing her jokes, he's doing it in such a way so that he can seem like he's the more powerful of the 2 siblings. He wants it to look like, for the player character, that he's the one in charge. Kieran specifically says, don't worry, I'll deal with Carmine. He's basically saying that he has control over Carmine, he has power over her, so that the player character will see Kieran as the more dominant of the 2. While Kieran's intentions behind his reaction to Carmine's jokes aren't that great, we can understand how they could be seen as a good thing to do by the people of Kitakami. A lot of the people in Kitakami don't understand Carmine's sense of humor, which is fair. It's kind of confusing. Because of this, people in Kitakami think that Carmine especially is a handful. But as the game goes on, Carmine actually gets better at using her humor in less easily misunderstood ways. Carmine starts using her humor more and more to compliment herself and others. When she uses her humor this way, nobody complains about it because there's nothing to complain about. The best way to explain this side of Carmine is through her Pokemon Morpeko, which has 2 forms, one that's happy and another that's hangry. Similarly, Carmine switches back and forth between these different sides of herself as she tries to meet her basic needs. She favors communicating in a humorous way, but it takes her some time to figure out how to do that effectively. Second characteristic about Carmine is that she is fiercely protective. We see this most prominently with her behavior towards Kieran. One thing to keep in mind is that Carmine and Kieran don't have any parents that are shown throughout the DLC. They do have grandparents, but their grandparents are pretty much standoffish. They don't really help out with raising the kids. This means that Carmine has had to take on the role of a parent for Kieran despite being just a kid herself. Carmine wants what's best for Kieran, but the way that she communicates with her brother doesn't work for him specifically. By this I mean how Carmine tends to yell at Kieran. Carmine thinks she's doing the right thing to keep him safe and help him grow as a person, but realistically, yelling just shuts Kieran down. Personally, I can relate to this idea that yelling can shut you down. I know when people yell at me, I get this urge to run and hide and not confront the situation. So like I kind of see it from both perspectives, because Carmine doesn't feel like she has any options other than to yell because she's a kid and shouldn't be a parent. And then Kieran gets nervous when she yells and feels like he needs to run away. Eventually, through part 1 of the DLC, Carmine learns that there are better ways to protect and encourage Kieran, like having him go first and trusting his ideas. But if you've watched my video on Kieran, y'all know that this is unfortunately too little too late. Not that I particularly blame her, because Carmine is a child too, and children should not have to take on a parental role like that. But it is really hard to watch their earlier interactions. In addition to being protective of Kieran, Carmine also becomes very protective of Ogerpon. When Carmine first meets Ogerpon, she mistakes Ogerpon for a child. She's immediately concerned for the child's safety. This shows that Carmine has a general protective compassion for people, especially young people. When Carmine learns the truth about Ogerpon, she immediately jumps into protective mode, wanting to get Ogerpon her mask back so she'll be safe from the villagers. Carmine is very obviously and openly very protective of Kitakame as well. One of the first things she says to the player character is, "Welcome to Kitakame. For your first experience, get ready to eat dirt." However, over part 1 of the DLC, Carmine sees the player character as somebody that she can include in her group and protect. She makes an exception for the player character to go up Oni Mountain, a place she doesn't typically think outsiders should go. She compliments the player character, and she even supports the player character throughout their double battles against the Lousy Three and throughout the player's battle with Ogerpon. At the end of this part of the DLC, Carmine explains how she learned that just because a person is an outsider, it doesn't mean they can't be good people. At the beginning of the DLC, Carmine was protective only of her small group. Now she's protective of people in general. The third aspect of Carmine's character, and this is the one that I think is most frequently missed, is that Carmine believes that she is wise. As I discussed in my video about Kieran, the masks characters wear to the festival are significant. Carmine wears the Monkey Dory mask. Monkey Dory was a Pokemon that sought wisdom. Carmine as a character starts out as a bit of a know-it-all. She acts like she knows everything about Kitakame, about battling, and even the best way to raise Kieran. The player character's arrival in Kitakame makes Carmine start to question the things she thinks are true. She starts to question things even more after she meets Ogerpon and finds out the truth about Kitakame's history. While she does generally start to question things more, Carmine doesn't question her grandfather when he asks her not to tell Kieran about Ogerpon. It's really unfortunate, because while Carmine is starting to grow in her journey towards wisdom, she hasn't realized yet that her grandfather can make mistakes too. After Kieran calls Carmine out on not telling him about Ogerpon, Carmine tries to apologize, but Kieran won't listen. Carmine apologizes for her brother to the player character, but unlike Kieran, who apologizes for Carmine to show that he's powerful, Carmine apologizes for Kieran because she feels weak and helpless. By the end of the first part of the DLC, Carmine reaches a point in her journey for wisdom where she realizes that she, as a kid, should not have all the answers, especially in how to raise her brother. Like, the expectations put on this literal child to raise her brother is just like where are their parents, and why are their grandparents so standoffish? Like, I know the grandparents seem like minor characters, but they're actually really important in understanding Carmine and Kieran. The grandfather talks about the importance of keeping secrets to prevent conflict, because that's what protected their ancestors, but at the end of the day, keeping secrets is exactly what causes all the conflicts in the DLC. I mean, look at how it hurt Ogerpon for so long, and now it's hurting Carmine and Kieran. If their grandparents had encouraged openness and honesty, Carmine and Kieran might not feel the need to hide things from each other. By the end of the DLC, Carmine has kind of learned that keeping secrets is not a good idea. Kieran has kind of doubled down on keeping secrets. What secrets does Kieran keep? Check out my video on Kieran to learn more. Let me know your thoughts on Carmine in the comments. If you want to hear more about Carmine, Kieran, Pokemon theories in general, make sure you're subscribed for future videos. Make sure you also follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty active on there. And I also have a Discord that's linked below called Capsule Monster. I hope you have a great day or night, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Hi, little one. Yeah, you want to be in the video. Okay, well, you're going to be in the video now, okay? You just really want to be in the video, huh? Yeah, that's okay. You can be in the video. You can be in the video. Yeah, you can be in the video.